Kyzatrex is a new form of testosterone replacement therapy that comes in the pill form. Now, this is a great option for some people who may not want to do the injections, but there are some things to consider that may or may not be right for you. So today I'm sitting down with Alex from T Clinics USA, and we're going to break down every reason you may want it or every reason you may not want to have Kyzatrex. Also, in this podcast, we do skip forward 60 days, and Alex is going to give you his personal opinion on how he felt having Kyzatrex, not only for himself, but also for other people in the T Clinics community. So listen in, see if this is the right option for you, and if it is potentially the right thing for you, do not hesitate to reach out to T Clinics to give Kyzatrex a try. Now let's get in the show.
Welcome to the ManLab, where we combine science and health in the pursuit of making men great again.
This is how legends are born. This is how legends are born.
So before we dive into that, I just want to make mention that T Clinics does offer 10% off your first package if you're a ManLab listener. To make use of that, just go to bit.ly/T Clinics USA. That link is in the description of where you're watching or listening to this right now. Mention the show, 10% off your first package. Nothing to lose there. So, Alex, run me through this oral. First of all, why would someone choose this over injectable?
This is the pill bottle. It's called testosterone undecuonate. Okay, so undecuonate is the ester. It's actually like a long-acting testosterone when utilized in like an injection format, but in an oral capsule, it's a short half-life, which means it's only present in the system for a short period of time, and we'll get into that as this podcast goes on, I'm sure. The brand name is called Kyzatrex, and it's made by Marius Laboratories or Marius Pharmaceuticals. So this is not a compounded drug. It's actually a manufactured drug, so it's not compounded by like compound pharmacies. But compound pharmacies that we work with are the ones who would sell it to us, and so ultimately, like they could get it delivered the same method. Oral testosterone, the idea of it has been something that I think this industry has always looked for. Like the convenience of taking a shot for some people isn't that convenient, and putting on a gel isn't that convenient, and putting pellets in isn't that convenient. So, when you look at taking something, there's quality of the medication. And ultimately, how convenient is it, right? So if it's inconvenient, but the quality of the result is exceptional, you're still going to people are going to say, well, shit, it may work great, but like I'm not going to do that therapy, get myself a shot once a week, or in some cases, some people have more side effects due to the injections, which we'll get into. But the oral pill idea of just popping pills, something we're very familiar with. I would think everybody's comfortable with taking a pill to some degree, has always been something that this industry has looked for. And going back before this drug classification, there was an oral testosterone called methyl testosterone. That was like old school testosterone back in like the early 2000s that people wanted to use, but in its absorption in the liver was extremely toxic. It was very hepatotoxic, so it created more liver and kidney problems than it was worth. And so a lot of physicians said, I'm not prescribing that because sure, you may like the idea of popping a pill, but the side effects were just very, very dangerous. So, medicine has advanced. And of course, this new idea of reintroducing an oral testosterone via a different pathway. Now, let me explain what that means, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the pathway?
So when you take a pill, generally, it goes into your stomach, and then it goes into your bloodstream, and your bloodstream kind of goes through your body, essentially going into those testosterone receptor sites. But part of that bloodstream is what? It's your liver. And so when it passes through the liver, it became toxic, and testosterone's toxic on the liver in that sense. This drug found its way to be absorbed through your lymphatic system, which is the other way. Kind of there's two ways for things to get transported through the body, once through the bloodstream and once through your lymphatic system. Now, lymphatic system is kind of the regulator of fluids in our body. It transports fats. So when you take in like a fat, like cholesterol, it actually transports through the lymphatic system, but it bypasses the liver. So they found a way to actually have this drug get absorbed through the lymphatic system and transport through your body this way, and it bypasses your liver. So it absorbs into the lymphatic system, goes through the bloodstream after the liver, and actually absorbs into all the different receptor sites. And so there's zero toxicity on the hepatic function, zero toxicity on your liver and your kidneys. And so therefore, if that concern, which was a concern, that's mitigated.
Interesting. So compared to injectable TRT, like how does the body uptake that? Like, does it uptake the exact same way in the body going through the stomach as compared to?
No, when you take a shot, I mean, you're taking a shot directly into your bloodstream, so it doesn't have to go through your like stomach and in through through your digestive tract, which of course into your liver. When you're taking a shot, it's in your bloodstream at that point. So, injectables don't really have a toxic effect on the liver either. It's just uncomfortable for a lot of people to take shots.
Yeah,
there's other reasons why injectables pose a problem. No, so let's kind of like really dive into this now. When you take a shot of testosterone, like on Monday, right, 200 milligrams, let's say, that's what my typical dose is. If I was to check my blood work Monday morning before my shot, which is considered my lowest point of the week, when on injectable testosterone, my readable total testosterone may be 800, 900, whatever the number is. And then after the shot, it's going to spike significantly higher. So for those guys out there who have checked your blood work at the wrong time in your week, your levels are through the roof, like literally like 5,000, 6,000 day after. Now that range of testosterone from normal to like high is somewhere in the mid 200s to the low 800s or whatever blood range you're utilizing. Guys who come in who are hypogonadic or low testosterone to begin with, their levels maybe 200, 300, 400. I've seen guys as low as 60 or 50. And so,
that's low.
After you take a shot of testosterone at 200 milligrams for a few days out of the week, you're in these super physiological ranges. You're in this like 800, 3,000, 4,000 range. The following day it drops down. 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 And then when we check your blood work, it's on the morning of your injection day, which is the trough is what we refer to it. It's at that lowest point, right? So at that day we check it, it's like a 900. For those days between injection and trough point, being that you have these super physiological ranges, some bad shit happens. Good shit happens too, which is like why we like testosterone, but some bad shit happens. And that bad shit is like the development of red blood cells, the issues with prostate problems, hair loss issues, blood pressure rising, aromatization issues where the body converts some of that testosterone into estrogen. And because it's just too much, right? Our bodies are never designed to have an 5,000 type of testosterone level. So that injection is not perfect for that very reason.
Find out if you may have low testosterone with the ADAM test. This is a free questionnaire that's online, takes about 60 to 90 seconds to fill out, and it has up to an 88% accuracy rating of the indication if you may have low testosterone. Now, a lot of people like to do this because they're not sure if they want to take the first step of getting the blood test just yet, but this is a nice introduction, free method to find out if that first step is going to be necessary. To make use of this, all you got to do is head to bit.ly/free ADAM test. That's bit.ly/free ADAM test. And if you don't want to remember that, the link is in the description of wherever you're watching or viewing this podcast. Now let's get back to the show.
The pill is different because it's used daily, every single day. Now, where it's convenient and inconvenient is here. It's not only just used daily, it's actually used twice a day. You actually have to take it morning and afternoon because the half-life is only a few hours.
So a testosterone tablet you're taking twice a day.
Yeah, so you have to take it first thing in the morning, and then you have to take it around lunchtime because literally the half-life is like 3 to 4 hours. So if I take my first dose at like 8, by like 11 a.m., it's almost out of my system.
And what's the half-life of injectable?
It depends on the ester it's tied to. So testosterone cypionate is around 7 days. Enanthate is around 5 days. Propionate is around 48 hours. So it just depends on what ester that medication is kind of made with. But on average, the injectable that we most commonly use is cypionate for the therapeutic purpose of the weekly injection. But going back to these like bad aspects of testosterone shots is when it's high like this, those conversion of stimulating extra red blood cells, which causes polycythemia, which is when men have to go and donate blood consistently, or we have high aromatization issues, which is where gynecomastia or water retention problems come from, elevated blood pressure issues. It's because there's just too much testosterone in the system for that period of time. When you're using something that has a short half-life and the dose isn't as high, those issues don't spawn off, right? So because I'm never getting into these super physiological ranges of 5,000 for any period of time, there's not this excessive amount of stimulation to the red blood cell count or excessive stimulation to the prostate with dihydrotestosterone conversion or aromatization with the, with estrogen. So we start avoiding some of these problems because we're getting into that 1,000 range, while on the pills. And this is probably a question you're going to ask is like, how high does it get? I've seen studies, and again, I'm just, full disclosure, only started this a few days ago.
And you're doing it for a minimum of 60 days,
right? So I started on the 1st of the month. Today is the 8th. So, only about a week in. Blake and I will do a follow-up in about 60 days after I do blood work, by the way, and kind of give you guys a full report on how I feel.
So that's one cool thing is like you guys will test everything first.
Sure. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not going to sell it to you if I'm not willing to take it myself.
Yeah. Plus it's interesting too. I'm interested to see how you go with this.
I don't have the traditional problems that a lot of men do when on testosterone. Like I do not have polycythemia ever. Some people genetically are predisposed to having a very high red blood cell conversion. I've never had that problem. I still donate blood on a very infrequent basis just because I know it's healthy, but I just don't have the need to. I
pass out. I'm a pussy.
Yeah, my aromatization is mild, so I still do take an AI. I take a inostrozole. But there's more. There's more to the benefits that this pill provides that we're about to.
So that really like the benefits of the tablets is it just doesn't have as crazy of a spike because my understanding from someone outside of taking testosterone is you got the roid rage everyone thinks of, and they're the people taking exogenous testosterone and they go crazy spikes to troughs.
Right. And some people are very sensitive to like the way that feels. I hear from guys like, shit, the day after I take my shot, I feel fucking great. And then towards the end, man, I'm feeling dying off. So then we'll advise those guys, man, take your 1 ml or your 1 cc shot and split it into 2. Do 0.5 and 0.5 or even 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. And you'll hear guys now like, Jay Campbell and these other guys talking about doing like daily shots where it's like little microdosing, right? But that's a pain in the ass too, because filling the little syringes with just a small amount of testosterone, you're trying to grab a bunch of thick oil through a really thin needle that has very low amount of pressure. I mean, these insulin syringes don't have a lot of pull, to them. So we use the big syringes to pull them and then backloading. It's
finicky.
It's problematic, right? So the idea you can just pop pills and avoid that and then avoid those super physiological ranges so you avoid those side effects. I mean, it's great to have like Superman levels of testosterone if you're going to use it. If you're going to go to the gym, and try to be like muscle bound and, really kind of get that test boost. But at the same time, if you're just looking to like, hey man, I just want to be like a normal guy, but have like back to normal guy levels of testosterone, it is difficult to achieve that with injectable because there's never a point where you don't have a peak comparably to a trough. You are always going to have a high comparably to a low, even in if you were to do it every single day. Yeah. Now, something about this that you kind of have to step back and kind of understand. Our bodies as men are programmed to be utilizing testosterone at certain times of the day. So when we wake up in the morning, like you're not on testosterone, right? Okay, so when you wake up in the morning, most men have hard-ons first thing in the morning, right?
Oh, I walk around with a boner.
Well, the reason you walk around with that boner first thing in the morning is when your eyes open in the morning, you actually get that full stimulation of testosterone boost. Our biggest boost is first thing in the morning. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I
always need to pee, and then I'm bending forward like that weird thing. Sorry, side note.
Yeah. So ideally, when you're checking someone's blood work to determine if they're a testosterone deficient person, we do check their blood work first thing in the morning because that's arguably their highest point in the day.
Gotcha.
So if you check that same guy's testosterone level halfway through the day, it's going to have subsided substantially. Highest point 8 in the morning, lowest point 8 at night. Okay, because you're not supposed to have high testosterone.
Yeah, you're not ready to fight.
You're supposed to cuddle and be relaxing and kind of tone down. Yeah. I mean, listen, if you're going out for a date and you're trying to get some ass and get laid, you may want a testosterone boost. And we'll get into that.
Nothing better than seeing an attractive woman to boost the testosterone.
Right. So what happens with normal people who are not on testosterone and not testosterone deficient is you have this natural boost in the morning, and then you kind of have like your middle of the day kind of get a little bit like kind of, tired-ish, if you will. And then around lunchtime, you have like a second boost. And then from that point on, it pretty much drops off. And so the pills mimic that natural cycle because you take them in the morning and then you take them in the afternoon. Now, the negative comes with that same reality is that you're going to have a drop off, in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But here's the good part about that. The body starts to understand that it was high in the morning, like normal, and high in the afternoon, like normal, and now it's dropped off. So what does the body want to do?
Go to sleep.
it wants to start to prepare and create its own testosterone.
Oh.
Unlike an injection that's constantly being present with a high amount of testosterone, both morning and night, the testes are never told in an injectable therapy patient, make more testosterone, right? So what happens to guys who are on testosterone injections? Our balls shrink, we become infertile, and we become dependent. Our FSH and LH, which are brain signals to the testes, begins to do this analysis of our system that we've talked about and say, hey, there's plenty of testosterone here. Boys, go, take a break, go out of business, right? So if our bodies were a factory and, this kind of system checks out as testosterone, you're taking a shot, eventually the balls are like, fuck it, man, I'm out of business because this guy's picking this stuff up somewhere else. I'm going to go on break. Yeah. And another shot comes on and the break keeps happening. Now, when you're on these pills, and the body does that assessment of the testosterone, is there enough here or not? And now it's 7:00 at night, the body's gonna say, oh, there's not enough testosterone here. We're back to low. Now, if you're capable of producing testosterone, meaning like your testes do have some life to them, they're gonna kick back on, right? They're not gonna shrivel to a point that you're not gonna go infertile, to a point you're gonna have some not so much of a suppression in your FSH and LH, and to a point you'll still have the ability to not be 100% dependent. So that's also a great positive, because this scary fact for most men is, wait, I'm gonna have to do this shit the rest of my life? And I'm like, well, yes and no, right? When it comes to injectable, because we talked about testosterone boosting therapy, which is like Enclomiphene and HCG.
So that was my next question, because what would be the difference between this pill form of testosterone versus a testosterone booster?
Testosterone booster is only as good as what your body's willing to boost, right? So you guys all know me to be the analogy guy. So the analogy
Here comes
is
the car.
Yeah, it is. Fuck it, I'm going to throw the car. It's the jumping of the car battery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever been stranded in a vehicle with a car ain't going to start, you can jumpstart a battery that still has some juice in it. But every once in a while, you go to jumpstart that battery and that battery broke. It's done.
Yeah.
It's cooked. You got to get a new battery. In the testosterone boosting analogy, that's the battery that can be jumped and turned back on. It was just asleep. It
I
just
love
needed
your car
to be.
analogies.
But in the testosterone replacement analogy, it's that battery that doesn't work.
Yeah,
So you can jump it, but it's like, it just doesn't work. It doesn't turn over. So guys whose balls can be jumped are boosting clientele. Guys whose balls are broken are replacement clientele.
Got you. And so
But
this
there's
is
some guys that are in a category where they're not necessarily broken, but they're just not capable of having ideal testosterone values. And like from a technical standpoint, when we do blood work and you see someone's LH, luteinizing hormone, is high, meaning their brain's trying to tell the testes to produce testosterone, and the testosterone level is inherently low, that means that you could tell them to jump them more and more and more, and they're just not going to do it because they're getting towards the end of their life. That's where a boosting clientele needs to be, a replacement clientele needs to be considered. And then you can marry the two, which is what I'm doing. So I use Enclomiphene in combination with testosterone injectable, or now this, as a way to keep my balls producing testosterone, but also the benefit of the extra amount of replacement. And I think anecdotally that the boosting married to this like pill version, you should have the best of both worlds, right? Because you're turning, it's like during the day when you want the testosterone, you get this excellent value. And then when you take this boosting product, you get this surge of your own natural testosterone capability of production. So I'm hoping to see my balls again, like after for many years, and see if they're out, see if they're down there,
see if they're ready to go.
Again. But no, in all reality, I'm curious to see if that combination creates this ideal environment of my own capability of producing, because I'm not beating my testicles down with a constant amount of testosterone being present.
Yeah, great choice.
Because my boss for many years, like, fuck it, man, I'm going out of bit. Like, I'm done. This guy's decided a long time ago that he don't need me anymore.
Yeah, because you've had like a lifetime of taking testosterone.
Yeah, I've been on this shit for 20-something years. And,
yeah.
So they've been on vacation. Because I've constantly had this superior high value of testosterone in my system and never gave it a break.
Yeah.
with the pills every afternoon at 6 or 7 o'clock, man, my levels are dropping for the first time in like 20 something years. So now, like with this Enclomiphene,
does that make it easier to go to sleep then?
I mean, so far, I don't know. I'm also doing this fucking carnivore diet.
Carnivore diet's killing us.
Not exactly easy to sleep either on that.
Don't believe the cult.
Yeah, so far, man, we'll see. So when you guys see me and I'm 180 pounds next time I come on here, don't totally blame the testosterone. But that's the kind of interesting thing that this testosterone pills give, the capability of maintaining fertility, maintaining testicular size, not having that atrophy, and potentially having, life after testosterone use, meaning you're in your 30s and you want testosterone to be high. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But like when you're in your 50s, maybe you're not so interested anymore, or maybe when you're in your 60s. And so guys who go on testosterone have to bite the bullet and say, well, fuck it, at 60, I'm going to be still on these shots on injectable. But if you do these pills for the next 10, 15 years, you may be able to come off and still have a relatively normal testosterone for a 6-year-old guy. And that's something that we're going to figure out.
Hey guys, just quickly, if you're enjoying this podcast and you're part of the 84% of people who are not currently subscribed, please subscribe right now by hitting that button so that you can get notified every time an episode comes out. Now, our goal is always for you to find out different ways to improve your health, maybe improve your wealth, or just improve your mentality so that you can improve the other two. So if you are part of that, you are getting a lot of value from this, please hit that subscribe button so you can get more of it. Now let's get back to the show. Have there been any studies yet to see, because you have mentioned that it can potentially boost the testosterone and turn the testes back into functioning form. I guess the biggest hesitancy is it's going to be similar to the injectable form of TRT, which is if I start taking the oral, will my testes shut down? Or if it's like someone like myself where I don't need testosterone replacement therapy at all just yet.
I mean, guys like you shouldn't be using it, period, right? Because like your levels are I think you're 900 or something. Yeah. So you're at a level that's not worth breaking. So it's like, you have such a superior level compared to the average person. Yeah, it could get better, but the risk to damage that isn't worth it for you.
It's not worth it.
But if you were in the 400 range and symptomatic, because something that people need to realize is like blood work is a number. It's a number caught in a moment of time. When we do people's blood work, they go, my testosterone is a little low or it's high. It's like, bro, what did I just say a little bit ago? It's at the lowest or it's the highest point first thing in the morning. But you feel like shit in the middle of the day, or you're tired in the middle of the afternoon, or you at nighttime don't have a sex drive. Well, don't say, well, yeah, because at 8 o'clock in the morning, my testosterone levels are 400 and that's normal. If they're normal at 8 o'clock in the morning, how low do you think they are at 8 o'clock at night?
That's very low.
You're dropping down to 120s or some shit, right?
Yeah.
So, but nobody checks their blood work at 8 o'clock at night. And so this is a problem that we run into with traditional medicine's opinion of testosterone.
They take it whenever.
Most guys don't wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning at, their adult part of their life. So after they're in their 30s and think, well, I can, notice my testosterone being low. Like most guys get up, go to work and do normal shit.
Yeah.
And then it's that later in the day where I'm tired and, I don't want to play with my kids, or I don't want to be with my wife, or I don't have the energy to go out at night. Who the hell's checking their blood work at that hour, right?
Yeah.
So
would you recommend, this is a little tangent, but it's testosterone related. Would you recommend because I'm guessing people will drop on different levels as well. Do people ever do where they get the test in the morning and then test in the evening to see?
Yeah, they have
those
saliva tests that you can do that, and they even have some at-home spot testing.
Because that'd be an interesting.
It is. I've seen some testing where people do that, and of course you can see the variable between morning and night, and it is quite substantial. But again, like someone like me who's on testosterone, there's not gonna be much of a change between morning and night. So our clientele,
it limits it to
we don't really do
people.
that because. Let's just be honest, what are we trying to figure out, in reality? Because we're trying to figure out if at your theoretical highest point, you're still categorically low, then obviously in the night when you're at that lowest point, you're definitely low.
Yeah.
So from just you would be a great test subject for this.
You got my brain ticking now.
Yeah, I mean, we can get you some at-home tests because I'm curious to see what you could test yourself multiple times in a day.
Yeah. There's
cortisol testing, for example, right? People always say, I think my cortisol levels are low. It's a spit test, and you do it multiple times throughout the day, and you check somebody's AM cortisol, midday cortisol, and PM cortisol because you're seeing the fluctuation of their adrenal hormones. Likewise, I'm curious to see where your testosterone levels are throughout the course of your day. And here's another thing that, like, if you're going to the gym, body's going to produce more testosterone.
Yeah.
You're about to get in a fight, body's going to produce more testosterone. You're about to have sex, body's going to produce more testosterone. You're going to lay down and play with your daughter, body's not producing a lot of testosterone.
There's a lot of estrogen.
You're going to lay down and play with the puppy, body's not producing a lot of testosterone. You want to take a nap, not taking a lot. So, you know, checking yourself
your
at
body
those different.
really does regulate all that.
Oh, for sure, man.
That's cray.
But when you're on injectables, it can't.
I just said cray.
You did, yeah.
That's
it's all right. We'll let that pass. Testosterone must be low right now.
It's a little low right now.
So what's cool about these pills for those guys who are looking? Because let's think about the other pellet therapy. Because you guys know I fucking hate pellet therapy.
You've mentioned it a couple of times.
How can you put something in your body that's there for 3 months that just slowly trickles in and expect to have any whatsoever normal reflection of what our bodies should be producing, right? I mean, injectable is bad enough because that's a 1 week, cycle. Now I do shots 2 times a week, but imagine putting something in your body that's an entire quarter of the year or half the year. It's like, Jesus, man, like there's such high peak and such low trough. Like January, February, March, January, February, you're peaking, and then March you're kind of coming down, and April, and then you're June, you feel like shit, then put it back up, like,
yeah, that's kind of wild.
Yo-yo, and like feeling like terrible.
Yeah, don't do that, guys.
Yeah,
but
don't do pills.
So, with the have there any other benefits that you've seen or heard? I mean, not seen just yet, but heard about the oral versus the injectable, and what are some reasons? Who is the type of person that you would suggest besides just
like blood pressure issues are a big problem for some men.
Yeah,
and again, as
with injectable, that is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They just every time they take a shot, can't get blood pressure managed. It's just really, really tough. No matter how often they're doing it, how little they take, because there's such a high spike and such an aromatization kind of issue that happens where the body's converting and blood pressure happens from it. So statistically, and I don't know the actual units of mercury because I'm not that in depth on this, but I did look at the study. Mercury units is like a measurement of pressure somebody out there is going to know more than me about this one, but on a scale, it was 2% comparably to injectable. Like if somebody's blood pressure was normal and it went up, whatever the percentage was, that amount, it was only 2% on the oral comparably to the injectable. So significantly less, right? So those are great candidates who just say, every time I can't do tests because I get headaches on it, I get blood pressure issues on it. I put on blood pressure medication because of it, which is terrible, right? So you don't want to, I hate the cocktail of medications that people end up on.
Yeah.
We take this, but then we take that to counteract that. But then because I'm on blood pressure medication, I'm tired, so I use a stimulant. But then because of stimulant, I need a sleeping pill. It's well, fuck, man, just cut out the testosterone. You would have got rid of all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, these pills, in theory, can prevent that. So blood pressure candidates. Polycythemia for some men is just really, really, really tough. I got clients who we've tried everything. Polycythemia is the overdevelopment of hemoglobin hematocrit, right? So this is the viscosity and thickness of your blood. When you do your blood count and you're constantly having high red blood cells, you run the risk of getting a stroke, blood clots, heart attacks, right? I mean, these are big problems. So
that's an issue.
Those aren't fun side effects. So if you're constantly finding that you're having to go down to the blood draw lab, and I'm off the top of my head thinking of 10 guys that are clients of ours that I know are going once a month to go give blood.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Crazy.
And they have to have prescriptions to go to One Blood to do it or something. So if you're finding that you're constantly doing this, no matter how low you're getting your testosterone level to, this is something that won't create that. And why? Because for 60% of the day, your levels of testosterone are normal. The entire time you sleep, it's normal. Those evening hours, it's normal. Those hours leading up to the morning when you actually take your pills, it's normal. So for that part of the day, you have normal testosterone.
Yeah.
But for this part where you actually want it, it's like drinking coffee, right? I want energy from morning to midday, right?
Yeah.
So I drink my coffee, or people do whatever the fuck. And then you want to start chilling out, right? So you want to be able to sleep tonight. So you stop drinking coffee, stop drinking caffeine. You can now, in theory, do testosterone the same way.
Interesting.
So you can use it at the gym or use it when you're going to go out. Let's say I'm going to go out and, go on a date. or go out with my wife.
Pop a testosterone?
It's Saturday night. Yeah, you pop some extra pills, knowing that thing's happening. So it's like
It's the new Cialis.
it can be. Like that's the cool thing about this.
That's interesting.
It's testosterone on the go.
Yeah. And so what's the reason we're not hearing about it? Because this seems relatively new, but 18 months, if this was we've heard if this was a pharmautically backed thing, you would hear about it day one.
It'd be on like Monday Night Football
What's the
commercials,
reason we
right?
aren't hearing about this?
It's not an insurance covered drug. So that's for one, right? So it's a cash pay model. This company, Marius Pharmaceuticals, I've never heard of them before this drug. So they don't have the backing to get the message out there. Many general practitioners don't like getting involved in the testosterone arena. And I still don't think they're going to get behind it because they don't want to care to study it.
Yeah.
And because it's a cash pay model.
And they're not going to be pitched by reps.
Right. And because it's a cash pay model.
Yeah.
So, they know a lot of their clients go, what? It's not covered by insurance. I don't want it. So that's unfortunately the world we live in.
Yeah.
And it's expensive comparably.
So that was my next question. Comparably, what's the price point of that to injectable?
On average, most men spend about $100 a month for injectable testosterone. This is more in the $200 to $250 range, depending on what dose and frequency. This is 1 month's supply. This is 120 pills. So
Wait, that's for a day.
It is 2 pills,
Golly.
2 times a day. So the dosing of this comes. I'll show you guys on camera for those who are watching this show instead of listening. This is a pill.
That's solid. That's for people just listening. That's like the size of a solid fish oil.
It's like a
tablet.
liquid. Yeah, exactly. Good analogy. So fish oil tablet.
I like
and
my
it's actually
analogies
filled.
too.
Yeah, there you go. And it's filled with liquid. So that the testosterone is actually liquid in there. You have to take it with a meal. So you can't take it on an empty stomach because it binds to fat.
Yep.
So it requires some fat to actually do the job it's supposed to.
So like peanut butters, fat in your food.
Yeah, I've been eating mine with because we're in the carnivore diet right now with
MCT oil?
No, I've been having mine with hard-boiled egg in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And then afternoon, of course, I'm eating a ton of fat right now. So bacon or some steak
bacon.
or beef or whatever. But you have to eat it with a meal.
Yep.
It comes in 100, 150, or 200 milligram tablets. And that may seem like a lot, but the absorption isn't something to compare against what your injectable therapy is. Like, for example, I take 200 milligrams of injectable testosterone a week. I'm taking 200 milligram tablets at a time, 2 times a day. So I'm taking 800 milligrams a day.
Yeah.
And their suggested starting dose is to take the 100 milligrams 2 times a day, which is 200 milligrams total. But all the stuff I read just said anything in the world of what we're used to, you need the 800 milligram dosing, the max dose, to get the type of results. And my expected blood value when I do my blood work, which has to be 5 hours, 3 to 5 hours after ingestion, by the way. So I do my blood work. I will do it when I do decide to do it. I will take the pill, for example, 8, and I'll do my blood work at 11 to 1, in that window. I expect my total testosterone to be up over 1,000, a little around 1,000. Here's another really great, cool thing about this. SHBG, sex hormone binding globin, SHBG, is a protein that binds itself to the testosterone molecule and kind of prevents it from being absorbed. We've talked about the difference between total testosterone and free testosterone. Total is just kind of the full amount of testosterone in your system, versus free is the testosterone finds its way to the receptor site. So free is really the thing that matters.
Hey guys, just quickly, T-Clinics USA offers tirzepatide to their clients, and for a limited time only, if you mention the ManLab, you will receive 10% off your first package of tirzepatide with T-Clinics. To make use of that, all you've got to do is go to bit.ly/T-Clinics USA, mention the ManLab, and you will receive that discount. So bit.ly/T-Clinics USA, and if you don't want to remember that, the link is in the description. Let's get back to the show.
One of the problems about having consistently high testosterone levels is the body starts to say, well, that's not normal, right? That the fuck, there's so much testosterone all the time. So it produces this hormone, this protein, this SHBG protein that attaches itself to the testosterone molecule, and it says, you're not getting to the receptor site. You're not getting to the receptor site. You're not getting to the receptor site. And so it makes a lot of this SHBG. And therefore, even though your total levels are very high, your free level isn't as high. And that's why we start to see people too who like at the beginning of their testosterone therapy say, man, when I first started taking this stuff, I felt fucking great. Energy, I was having sex, constantly. But now I've been on it for a few months and those things have kind of subsided because the body's defending itself from all that testosterone. Because of this stuff not being in the body near as much, it doesn't raise SHBG near as much. So men who have a hard time with getting their free level up, even though they take a lot of total testosterone, their total testosterone is adequate, this can be a solution.
Okay.
I wanted to bring up kind of a point on that. So another issue that we find is a complaint is sex drive and ED problems on testosterone. And you'll be like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's usually the opposite of what I hear.
Because when your testosterone levels are always high, it's like those receptor sites are consistently getting hammered with this hormone that stimulates your sex drive and gives you the erectile benefit. But then because it's always high, at times it becomes desensitized to it. So it's the equivalent again of the coffee thing of drinking coffee all day long. Eventually you could like go to sleep on coffee, right? So the testosterone can't do it.
So that actually makes me think of like this conversation with porn addiction. So
constantly stimulated,
boosting.
Then when all of a sudden you want it to work, like what stimulates something that's constantly stimulated, right?
Yeah.
So similar to like insulin sensitivity, people who have constant amounts of sugar in their body, it's like your body at some point, like, it's like, this is not normal. And so it starts to resist it. And the same thing starts to happen with testosterone being elevated all the time. And so all of a sudden the receptor sites become clogged and kind of saying, fuck, this is too much. And so what I've read and I've seen, other people's testimonials on it is that all of a sudden, because that testosterone is not present high all the time, that it drops off at a period and then it comes up again in the morning, that it actually does kind of re-alert and lowers that resistancy and makes you more sensitive to testosterone again, which all of a sudden you get this like newfound benefit from the testosterone therapy itself. So even though your level is not near as high, the smaller amount coming in those infrequent amounts and your body getting a break for an extended period may give you the same, if not better, kind of experience on testosterone.
Interesting. Okay.
And again, I'll be a great testimonial to this. And we'll find out.
The last question before we wrap this up was going to be, obviously we're only a week in. What's your anecdotal experience or things you've noticed personally in the first week?
Nothing yet.
Nothing
yet. And honestly, like I say,
but that's also compared to you.
So the last testosterone shot I took was 1 week prior to taking the first pill.
Yeah.
So just to kind of go backwards, like right around Christmas time, I took my last shot, which was, would have been 1 week to the shot, to the pills. So I'm literally, there's still some, kind of remnants testosterone still in your system. So I would say maybe the past 2 or 3 days, I'm finally at a point where the testosterone shots are 100% out of my system. And now I have these pills going on. I say as of today, I feel pretty much normal. Not to mention my diet is a complete different story right now.
The other variable is the carnivore diet.
I haven't had a carb in like a week, so I'm literally eating protein and fat and nothing but. So that's a little. So
in month 2 will be interesting then, because that's when your diet will go back to relatively the same as what it was before, and you'll have.
And I got about 2-3 clients that when I told them I was doing this, they were like, "Sign me up." And then, like I told you, I got guys that are 100% like needing an option, And so like hopefully by that point we'll have their experiences as well.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that men who are not on testosterone for medical reasons, prostate issues, maybe they have had chronically high blood pressure, maybe they have family history of reasons to not use it, and they have low levels, they're not going to get an amazing experience out of this. I, on the other hand, don't know what to expect because I'm so used to being on high level testosterone for so many years. So we'll find out.
And I know people are going to ask this in the comments. Where can they get that from T Clinics yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if guys are wondering about where to get it from, go to bit.ly/T Clinics USA or just tclinicsusa.com and just hit them up and they can get it for you guys.
Yeah. And I mean, just again, like here's the thing. People may think, well, fucking taking 2 pills twice a day, I can do that. But then when I travel, what do? Hey, look, if you don't take it in the middle of the day, it's fine because your body's going to go back to like the low production numbers that it was to begin with. So you're not going to all of a sudden fall apart. the inconvenience element, but don't sign up for this therapy if you're a person who just hates taking pills and you're not regimented enough, at least to take, 70, 80% of your pills on time, because at that point you're not giving it a fair shot. So like, I do think there's a reality to being willing to do what the requirement of the therapy is, to taking it twice a day, for the majority of the time. I work from home, so it's always there, and I'm a pill popper. So like, I'm
I've seen
cool
your
to
selling
do it.
kit.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so it's now been roughly 60, 70 days since we last filmed the earlier part of this episode. As you can tell, my hair's a little bit shorter. Alex's hair is longer. But so we're going to let you know what Alex found with the Kyzatrex, how his experience was, and also what it's been like for a couple of other people as well in the T-Clinics community. So let's start off with, what was your personal experience with Kyzatrex?
Yeah, so it was definitely different than I expected. First off, the using it, keeping up with it 2 times per day for me was just a little bit out of my norm, just because I'm used to that 1 or 2 injections a week, and then getting in the mood of, waking up in the morning, having to take it. I also am used to fasting in the morning and going to the gym usually in the morning on empty stomach. That's just how I've always trained. And because you have to have food with this stuff, it made me a little bit kind of off in my want to eat food and then take the pill and then do it again at lunch. And keeping in mind, we were doing this during carnivore. So I was having to have a hard-boiled egg, and then take the pill or whatever. So that was a little getting used to. And then because I was in carnivore diet, my nutrition was not the same. My energy levels were a little off. So in all fairness to the therapy, I wasn't my typical self. And because of that, I actually overshot the time frame. This is why we're here 60 days, right? Because I feel like the first 30 days I was in an unfamiliar territory doing carnivore dieting. And I was flat muscle wise, I was lean because of doing carnivore. But I just wasn't my typical diet. So I actually extended it an additional 30 days. That's why we're here 60 days later. So let's keep in mind this. I've been on HRT-based programs since I was 26 years old, okay? I'm now 45, so do the math. It's been close to 20 years. Injectable testosterone offers your abilities of having very high testosterone levels at your peak compared to very low levels at your trough. And so at the beginning of my injection cycle, called Monday, I don't know exactly how high my total testosterone levels are, but I'm assuming in the 3,000 or 4,000 range. And then by the time I do my blood test, which is 7 days later, I'm getting in the 800 or 900 range. That low point of my week was arguably as high as I was ever getting on Kyzatrex. I was supplementing the Kyzatrex with Enclomiphene to try to get my testicular function back up and running, which, by the way, I take regardless on TRT or not. But I was hoping that I would see a little bit more resurgence of my natural production with the Kyzatrex, because the theory of these pill-based testosterone, specifically Kyzatrex, is that like a cup of coffee, you're getting the benefit from it for a few hours after you take it, and then it basically goes away. And so if I was taking it in the morning, then I was going to the gym, I was getting a great workout, which I was, and then I would come home and take it at lunch. I would get a good lunchtime, kind of testosterone boost, which I was. And then around 4 o'clock, it was kind of worn off and essentially gone out of my system. Comparably to the injectable version of me, I was high first thing in the morning, middle of the afternoon, into the evening, and all night long while I slept for those days in a row. So I was feeling that want, during the end of the day. But because I had some variation between high post using the pill versus the evening time, which is lower, of course, I would feel that surge more. And I think that's probably what somebody who has had no experience being on testosterone would probably experience more so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Does it feel like maybe you are experiencing the natural rise and troughs of testosterone that you're not familiar with because it's been 2 decades?
Probably. I don't know what an average man feels like first thing in the morning. But, I would wake up normal, of course. I was waking up still with erections and stuff, normal, just because I think
good old morning glory.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with maybe the, Enclomiphene use of that anyway. But I will say, I would take it and go to the gym, and I was definitely a little pissed off. Like I was definitely having that like, anxiety kind of aggression.
Just pull this down for a second. We can't see you. Look in the face.
Yeah, sorry. I was definitely getting that like, feeling. So kind of that pre-workout pump.
Yeah.
Years and years and years ago, I
morning,
had taken some oral testosterone steroids, and I remember that feeling of just, kind of roid rage kind of feeling, if you will, because I think that punch to the spike in testosterone. So I would note at the gym in these Kyzatrex trial I did, definitely a really good, few hour workout. And then, like I said, I would come home. Now I work from home and I definitely have a relatively stressful business life. The past 30 days, probably more stressful than it should be. And I've been in the middle of a move and there's been a lot of shit going on in my life. I would definitely find myself a little bit more agitated than I probably should have been during that. So my kind of rush of aggravation and testosterone surge was definitely something I acknowledged.
And so would you say that that's more of like because of your situation of being on TRT for 20 years and then going this way to the
I don't know if it was that so much or kind of I had got my body over the course of the 60-day period used to running lower during those hours that the Kyzatrex wasn't present. And so during those spikes, it was more of, like I said, a punch to me, kind of an analogy of if I was not used to getting sun for a long extended period of time, and then all of a sudden I went and got, sun exposure for 3 hours, I would get burnt again, right?
Yeah.
So in a way I was going from low to high. And so that high jump was something that I really acknowledged more so, and I felt more so than the difference of having been used to the testosterone exposure for such a long period of time. Like now, just fast forward through this conversation, I'm back on injectable. I gave up the Kyzatrex. I don't have that swing so much anymore. I'm used to the high levels, so therefore I don't feel that aggression as I was when I was on the pills.
So the aggression was when it was rising up for you?
Yeah, like I said, if I was taking my pill at lunchtime at noon and get on a not so pleasant phone call at 1, I found myself ready to, punch somebody through the computer screen if I could, more so than normal. So, ask some of my business partners, I wasn't.
A bit of a rough one for them too. Hey guys, just quickly, T Clinics USA wants to make mention that they do offer Testosterone for their customers. And for a limited time only, if you're a ManLab listener, you will be receiving 10% off your first package with them. To make use of this, just go to bit.ly/T Clinics USA and mention the ManLab and you will receive that 10% discount. Now that is bit.ly/T Clinics USA. And if you don't want to remember that, the link will be in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. So bit.ly/T Clinics USA, mention the ManLab, and let's get you on Testosterone. Let's get back to the show. If it's someone who's not in your circumstance where they're on TRT injectable for 20 years, does this have a place for them? Say it's someone who's looking for, instead of going from
like you,
Enclomiphene. Yeah, like me. I mean, I'm not looking to replace just yet,
right.
But if someone's like that step beyond me where they want to also replace a little bit.
This is like test driving testosterone. You get a chance to kind of feel the benefits, get into that driver's seat of the testosterone world, but you get to get out. You get to get out in the afternoon and say, okay, that was a fun ride. and the cool thing is, if like it's not for you, it does no harm in that regard either.
Yeah.
Like for you, if you have the desires to not be dependent on testosterone, not screw up your FSH and LH hormones, not become infertile, you get an opportunity to get some super physiological ranges of testosterone comparably to what you're naturally producing or what Enclomiphene or HCG or boosting therapy could offer you. So I look at this is a great thing right now in our space, right? Because we have do nothing about your testosterone levels being low. We have boost your testosterone levels if they're able to. Before we jumped to testosterone replacement, now we have this space in the middle.
Yeah,
now
so it's like a great intermediary.
It is.
Option.
It truly is. Again, cup of coffee analogy. Like for some people, they just like getting a little bit of a boost of energy and then kind of being back to their normal selves, where some people are more speed freaks, energy freaks, and want to be sped up all day long. if you don't want to have that consistent high level of testosterone for whatever reason, whether it be the kind of casualty of being on injectable testosterone, which is the dependency and infertility, polycythemia, elevated blood pressure, hair loss, prostate aggravation, you can simply utilize the testosterone for those moments in time where you feel you need it. Maybe a little bit more power in the gym, a little bit more sex drive, a little bit more energy at work. And so it can offer you this temporary ride on the testosterone roller coaster, and then you could get off.
Yeah. All right. So,
but I'll say this:
it sounds interesting because I was when we first shot this episode at the beginning, my brain was like, oh, he's gonna love this a lot. So it's good to see that you're like, look, here's the reality of
It was a new toy to play with for sure. Like if you guys have been out there in the TRT space, like a lot of us have. You go and you try different things. You try testosterone, you try tescipinate, you do once a week injections, you try every other day, you try microdosing it. You try all these variations just to see, like, is this therapy I'm on able to be made better for me? Like, is the ride potentially somewhat smoother or more aggressive or better, doing it some way different? It was a different experience. You know, I'm not regretting I did it. Here's my opinion. If you're on injectable testosterone and you're used to your levels being where they are and your muscle size being where it is, and you know the benefits that you've gained to learn and appreciate of testosterone, do not expect Kyzatrex to be an equal 1-for-1. It's not, and it won't be.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're on injectable testosterone and you're finding that it's creating more problems than you're finding it's worth to do, such as consistently donating blood. You're finding your hair is thinning out excessively more than you expected. You're having prostate problem issues. Your blood pressure rises often easy. You're getting a lot of water retention. Gynecomastia problems are becoming more problematic. You're simply sick of taking the shots. Then this is a good alternative because those problems we just announced are for the most part mitigated. And you don't have to now say, well, I'm fucked and I can't come off testosterone and I have to deal with this problem that I can't seem to shake. I mean, for years we've had clients who have to go donate blood all the time. And there's just not an alternative. There hadn't been an alternative. Or guys that are constantly combating elevated prostate levels and are now at a point where they're thinking, well, maybe I have to come off testosterone completely. There is this thing now to consider. On the contrary, if you've never done testosterone and you're at a point in your life where you know and recognize that it's time to do something, and you've tried the boosting and it's given you a lackluster result, this is definitely something worth evaluating before committing to potentially going on the injections. Or if you're absolutely heartfelt not going to take shots, it is a great idea to do this.
Yeah.
We did some blood work. You know, full disclosure, I did not. I didn't do my blood work. I just got to a point where I recognized I wasn't going to keep up with it. Around the 50th day, 45th day, I pretty much was like, I had lost a significant amount of weight during the carnivore diet. My strength was down. I just, in my personal life, it didn't work out for me. And so I had some left over. And so I was like, well, fuck, what am I going to do with these? It was an awesome pre-workout kind of right before you go to the gym idea. And let me tell you something, I'm on injectable therapy. I don't take a lot. I mean, full disclosure, I take about 180 milligrams a week. For a guy my size, I weigh about 210, so it's not really a lot. I know my partner, Jeff, he runs, I think, about 120, 140 milligrams a week. So he doesn't like to run high. Using a testosterone Kyzatrex pill before you go to the gym gets your levels at the gym nice and spiked on leg day, on chest day, on those days you want to go a little harder, and you feel it, man, dude, you feel it. And like maybe for date night, you want to take something with a Cialis because you'll feel it.
We reserve that for the Patriot Pump.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say that's the prescribed reason to do this. And I know that.
Yeah, that is not medical advice.
No, but listen, I'll tell you, if you're on a low enough dose of testosterone, our doctors here in the Naples and Fort Myers and Coral Springs office would be willing to consider prescribing Kyzatrex because you're not redlining, if you will, on the high doses.
Yeah.
And as long as those problems aren't being seen, hey, it's a nice it's a nice supplement to the low dose testosterone therapy you're on. If you're needing a boost in the gym or having muscle tone issues or having motivation issues or sex drive issues, really, really a good option to add it in.
Interesting. All right.
Now we did some blood work on, not me, on clients.
That's my next question. What's it been like for
Here's
other
the things that we're looking for to justify using this stuff. How does it affect those fertility-based hormones, the FSH and LH levels? Now, real reminder, quick. When you check someone's blood work and you notice that their testosterone levels are low, if their LH level's low, it means the signal from the brain to the testicles is essentially quiet. And if you raise that LH level up, you are increasing the signal from brain to testicles, and testicles should respond by producing more testosterone, right? One of the concerns about going injectable testosterone is if a man's LH is relatively normal or high and you put him on injectable, you are going to quiet that level down to a whisper, and essentially it stops wanting to be raised up because the body becomes dependent on the injections. The thing that we were really intrigued by Kyzatrex was that it wouldn't lower LH levels. It wouldn't lower FSH levels. So we wanted to test the model. So we found men who had moderate testosterone levels, moderate LH levels, and before putting them on injectable testosterone like we typically would have, we put them on Kyzatrex, check their blood work on it. Lo and behold, testosterone levels up, LH levels the same. FSH levels the same. We had guys who were concerned about fertility do semen analyses before getting started. Post, same. Strength and quantity of semen, the same. Will it make someone who has low semen or low sperm count higher? No, it's not supposed to be a booster, but it's not negatively impacting it. Estradiol levels almost never changed, so it doesn't aromatize because it being short acting in the system. PSAs didn't change at all because of it not bombarding the prostate with elevated DHT levels. So all these like things that like we're hearing about testosterone being like essentially the villain for, elevated blood pressure, red blood cell development, prostate problems, Kyzatrex doesn't do it.
Interesting.
So there's that.
Yeah.
There's always a trade-off, right? I mean,
there's a trade-off. Yeah, because how would that compare to like TRT across a shorter, like that timeline? They'd see a little bit of a dip typically in all those areas? Based off the studies of the manufacturer, they'll say no. I mean, keep in mind, we didn't really check people for years on this stuff. Yeah.
It should not, because the way that our bodies work is that temporarily this stuff is in your blood for only a few hours. And then if you think about this, if your testosterone levels are getting higher because of the introduction of Kyzatrex, and then they dip back down, your body's going to want to bring them back to that level, usually on its own naturally to some degree, and should try to start producing testosterone during the evening and sleep hours when you naturally produce the most anyway. So I would think over the long haul, you would keep a healthier FSH and LH level, and you would keep a healthier sperm profile by even the utilization, not because it's stimulating them, but because of it bringing awareness to the body of a higher level is capable.
Gotcha.
And then again, we pair it with Enclomiphene, which is another way to boost the natural levels.
So would you recommend having this, to wrap this up, would you recommend having Kyzatrex without Enclomiphene, or is it typically a pairing between the two?
If somebody doesn't give a shit about long-term dependency or fertility, and they're only using this now because they don't like injections, they're concerned about prostate problems, they're just not comfortable with, the injection process as a whole, then sure, because the only variable there is that you're going to get a high spike, and then in the afternoon it's going to fall off a lot. And they're going to feel it more significantly than me, for example, that my testosterone levels are being propped up in those off hours by the boosting product being kind of present in my system. So yeah, you can, and like Kyzatrex, the manufacturer will state it's not necessary. But of course, like they're not out promoting the use of these other, stimulating drugs. So unlike the gels and pellets, which have a lot of other side effects, like if you're using gel because you don't want to use injections, absolutely consider trying this. Yeah. Because gels have a serious amount of health problems. Elevation in DHT levels is significantly greater on a gel than anything else. And prostate problems and hair loss becomes very problematic. Pellets, high aromatase issues, very high water retention issues, very high polycythemia issue problems with it. So like, if you're just opposed to injections and you're like, well, I'm just gonna take the gel as the alternative, this pill is way better. And the concern of it like being hepatotoxic or like toxic on your kidneys and liver, it's not there either because of the lymphatic absorption. So I really feel like this is the beginning of a great therapeutic option for many, many men who have had an excuse of why not to do TRT up to point.
Yeah.
And now we're going to be introduced to a whole new generation of clients.
Awesome.
So give it a shot. You know, like I said, it can't hurt. It literally can't hurt.
Yeah. All right, well, there you have it, guys. If you wanted to find out more, just hit the link that's in the description of wherever you're watching or listening to this. T-Clinics, Alex, the whole team, they'll be able to see if this is the right option for you guys. And if you haven't filled out the Adam test, seeing as we're on that topic of testosterone, the link's in the bio as well, bit.ly/free Adam test. Find out if you may or may not have low testosterone, and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.